Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webcast, Governing and Executing on a Power BI Strategy. My name is Ben Dunmire, and I'm a Business Intelligence and Analytics Consultant here at Thorogood, based in our Philadelphia office. To get started, I'd like to share a few objectives that I'm aiming to accomplish in today's session. I'll look to describe some key benefits that can be realized from defining and delivering on a well-developed strategy for Power BI. So looking to answer the question, why are organizations choosing Power BI, and how are they extracting maximum value from the investment? I'll highlight the value we see from enabling self-service reporting and analytics, and talk about some of the pieces of a strategy that allow organizations to have a balance of central governance and end-user adoption. Lastly, I'll touch upon some ways to take a Power BI strategy from a vision to an actionable plan, including some example ways to deliver on specific pieces of a strategy, which we see as key ways to roll out the tool. Before we jump into Power BI, I'll briefly introduce Thorogood and what we do. So for those of you who don't know us, we are an independent global professional services firm specializing in business intelligence and analytics strategies, solutions, and services. We are a global company with offices in New York, Philadelphia, London, Bangalore, India, Singapore, and Sao Paulo, Brazil. All of our consultants are recruited and trained in the same way to develop a unique mix of skills, blending business understanding in the form of industry and functional experience with strong technical aptitude and a deep understanding of analytical tools and techniques. We do offer a full range of BI and analytics services, including strategy and roadmaps, requirements, design, implementation, and training and support. In terms of the technologies we work with, we are an independent consulting firm, meaning we don't work with one specific technology. We do, however, work and partner with many of the key players in the market in order to provide our clients with a solution that best suits their needs. Today we're talking about Power BI, but our strategies for implementing and governing Power BI have been learned across various tools, which ultimately influences our thinking. With today's topic being about Microsoft, I wanted to share a bit about our relationship with Microsoft. We've been a gold partner for over 15 years and are certified for data analytics, platform and collaboration and content. In addition, we are a cloud platform certified partner. Our partnership gives us a great interface into the Microsoft development team, allowing for open communication both from Microsoft directly to our customers and feedback from our customers back to the developers. So let's get started here and move on to discussing why, at a high level, organizations are turning to Power BI. So we've seen really huge interest in Power BI from our customers looking to adopt a self-service reporting and analytic tool. So here I've distilled down a few of the key aspects to Power BI and why organizations are investing in a tool. So kind of why Power BI. It enables self-service analytics. It has an attractive pricing model. It's constantly evolving and growing as a software package. And it fosters the ability to collaborate and share data insights. Now, these are all opportunities that Power BI presents, but without a supportive strategy to implement and govern the tool, it's difficult to achieve maximum value and exploit the opportunity from these four benefits. And ultimately, without a vision that aligns your organization's goals and needs with Power BI's strengths, it's tough to realize the true value of an investment in the tool and get to data-driven insights. So I'll go into a little bit more detail on the types of questions organizations are posed with when defining their Power BI strategies. So Power BI does offer an impressive option to visualize and analyze data to identify insights. So what types of activities or constructs are in place to ensure users are supported in their use of the tool and have resources to feel empowered to kind of take full advantage of Power BI? Microsoft's pricing model is well suited for enterprise organizations and allows for flexibility depending on how the tool is positioned and planned to be used by the community. So how do organizations identify synergies and align how they want to use the tool with the appropriate licensing model? The desktop tool sees monthly updates with new functionalities and connections to data sources, and the cloud-based service inherently sees frequent updates to improve its performance, user interface, and customizability. So users are constantly able to do new and innovative things. So how do organizations manage this evolution of the tool and ensure training and informative material stays updated and available to the user base? And the true value and impact from Power BI is really experienced when an organization is able to create an environment where information can be shared and collaborated on in an open and well-defined forum. So what types of controls and processes should organizations implement to capitalize on the opportunities Power BI presents to share data insights? So this certainly isn't a cumulative list of what Power BI offers or why Power BI, but it gives a sense of the reasons a plan for governing and executing on a Power BI vision is necessary to achieve the true potential of the tool. So now we've covered a bit about why having a Power BI strategy is important and kind of the high-level questions that need to be answered. Let's think about some objectives that should be a result of executing on an enterprise Power BI strategy. Thinking about where we want to be is often helpful in defining how to get there. So an alignment of how people want to use a tool with a sound understanding of licensing options can result in the recognition of economic benefits and a good return on investment. A strategy should provide guidelines for using Power BI and define standards for which the tool should be implemented to ensure consistency and well-designed technical solutions. And hand in hand with promoting self-service enablement is a reduction in dependence on IT, where business and analytic users drive the creation of content supported by a robust development and design framework. A major opportunity to be uncovered by self-service analytic tools is the recognition of new channels or analyses to uncover business value. A strong strategy should really provide users the resources to explore their data and drive out those valuable insights. Intertwining with several of these objectives is a collaborative and thoughtful user community, which is a foundational piece to support and grow a tool like Power BI. And a final item here is establishing a guided analytic framework as part of your Power BI strategy, because that gives users a repeatable platform to be creative and drive innovation in their analyses, with the ability to productionize and repeat those analyses that prove valuable. So as we continue on, let's keep in mind the things that we really want to accomplish with our Power BI strategy and how the implementation of that strategy drives towards these goals. So a key theme that I touched on already is self-service enablement. I'll share a bit about the value add to organizations and how empowering the right users can lead to a strong return on investment. So a number of customers have heavily invested in self-service platforms, including semantic models, OLAP models, top-of-the-line user tools, etc. The argument to put in place a self-service platform is a pretty compelling one. However, more and more people are looking for support in growing the numbers and skill level of their user base. As a few examples of how this manifests itself, an organization we worked with had a few really talented users, but a number smaller than they imagined when they started making the investment in the self-service platform. Likewise, another organization had quite a large user base, but all with very basic skill level. Both of these scenarios stunted the amount of valuable insights coming out of the platform. In many ways, once you have your technology base right, the insights coming out of the investment are a function of the number and skill level of the users. So in order to maximize the value of that investment, you need to consider how your company can train and support more better equipped users. So thinking about those better equipped users, we often refer to them as power users. Organizations are constantly looking for ways to cultivate more power users, ones that are confident and who are better enabled to take advantage of self-service platforms. In order to assess how much time and money you put into getting those users, it's important to consider what achieving those goals might do for the organization. It's certainly not something that is always easy to quantify or put a dollar amount to, but it's an important aspect to consider. We see some common benefits that have impact across two axes. By increasing the number and skill level of your power users, you'd expect to increase the speed with which decisions can be made and also the quality of those decisions. In that, you'd recognize more opportunities to reduce unnecessary cost or drive revenue in an organization. On the other axis, there's also an interplay with IT that is interesting, where you've reduced dependence on IT and the costs associated with that. With increasing amounts of data and new data sources available, there's more and more pressure on IT to provision data and respond quickly to new critical value-add needs. By reducing the number of requests for pools of data or basic reports, IT organizations will be able to prioritize the critical value-add activity that's really important to the organization, instead of being hampered down by an influx of requests. The value of a power user is quite high on multiple axes. And so to continue the conversation, we may start to assess how work is done today and what the impact of that is. Take a moment and think about your organization. Where are the elements that are driving decision-making coming from today? Let's think of business needs as a dark gray box. What percent is driven by technical experts versus business experts? In many cases, we see that people with technical expertise are driving a lot of the creation, leading to strong dependence on IT and technical experts. And then the business experts are satisfying a smaller number of needs for the organization. And then there's another consideration that may be missed, the unmet needs. The IT backlog grows, and the business can't necessarily predict all of their future needs. The final bucket holds needs that might not be met or might be unrealized, resulting in missed opportunities and often an unhappy business. So where would we want decision-making to come from? Ideally, we'd want a greater portion coming from the business. There certainly are still aspects that will be done by IT or technical experts, things like very complicated reports or reports that are required for regulatory compliance that need to be highly locked down. Ultimately, though, the result is unmet and unrealized needs decrease because the business is able to recognize more of what they need, and there are less items sitting in a backlog. And here we really see the value of power users and strong self-service enablement ingrained in something like a Power BI strategy. So we've set the stage a bit, starting with kind of where we want to be and where we want a Power BI strategy to get us. So how do we make that vision a reality? A concept we think about is creating a center of excellence for governing and implementing Power BI as an enterprise tool. I'll share some insights on the types of programs and considerations and actions that can be used to execute on a Power BI strategy. At the center, we think about Power BI as a product. At the core, it's necessary to understand what the product can do and how it operates. Looking to Microsoft or a partner to share information about what the tool can do and how to go about accessing its functionalities is often helpful. It's often insightful to compare Power BI to other tools through POCs or technology assessments to understand the differentiation and where Power BI may fit in an architecture. An important aspect that will avoid loss of user confidence or displeasure is identifying limitations and workarounds. So doing things like collating data sources that may not yet have native connectors, or raising known business processes that will be difficult to accomplish with Power BI. As mentioned before, Power BI is constantly evolving as a tool. So it's important to think about software releases and how the information is distributed when updates become available or new functionality is released. From thinking about the tool kind of in isolation, we also want to consider how the tool fits with existing data assets. Part of a robust strategy is identifying where Power BI fits in a tool set. Is it replacing another application, or is it being used to complement other investments? It's necessary to think about the guidelines and positioning of Power BI to the user community. How do we want people to use this tool? We'd also want to think about existing investments in data assets. So this may dictate which users get access to Power BI first, or what strategic data source connections are established early in the Power BI lifecycle to reduce time to value or de-risk a wider rollout. As with any technology investment, Power BI strategy should align with future enterprise roadmap. So Power BI may be included as part of a cloud data lake POC to assess its fit and help to drive user buy-in for the data platform initiative. Licensing considerations also come into play when we think about integrating Power BI with an organization. And a few of the many driving factors to consider for licensing are how the tool is planned to be governed, as well as the number of users and reports, which can sometimes be predicted based on POCs or initial solution deliveries. So moving on here, a key element of the strategy is the data assets that users want to get access to, and the various ways data sources can be integrated to extract insights. So it's important to consider how to govern access to data sources, how to aid in recognizing synergies, and how to ensure best practices are implemented as the number of solutions grows. First, we think about having an end-to-end view of the solution and documentation to share with users and developers. So what are the transformations applied to a data source, and how do I trace back to the source information? What calculations are applied to form aggregations, things like that. Understanding the origin of data helps to grow confidence and opportunity with Power BI. One of the objectives we discussed for having a robust Power BI strategy is to facilitate a guided analytic framework, which takes dashboards and business questions with the integrated data behind them to empower self-service analyses. An example to do this is creating a structured architecture template for building end-to-end Power BI solutions, including the ETL elements, which is going to promote consistency across solutions. Providing a link between data sources and user interface user interfaces is imperative, as it's kind of the natural starting point for guided and automated analytics. We think about how the cloud Power BI service is managed and how data sets are made available to users. We think about the governance established for data model design, extraction from data sources, and front-end design. So the solutions are built to grow and evolve as business needs grow and evolve. Having a consistent framework for creating Power BI content and an agile approach to managing the ways in which content is collaborated on will help users extract business value from the data. Lastly, we'll think here about reusability, where semantic models can be used for multiple reporting scenarios, or a solution can be adapted for another business unit. So a way to help this is to catalog solutions in something like a reporting and analytics hub, so Power BI content and other relevant content is available in a single centralized location. So next, let's explore what goes into the delivery of solutions. What types of activities help to effectively govern the delivery of Power BI content and ensure consistency, scalability, and a cohesive self-service platform. So first, basic development training, both for IT and business users, is a useful activity to provide opportunities to develop skills and really invest in people. So a few ways to do this are training programs, whether offered internally or externally, and on-demand content where users can pull on information when they need it. Establishing best practices for dashboards, modeling, and generally using a self-service tool within the guided analytics framework helps to ensure solutions are consistent and robust. And we found that grounding best practices and development guidelines using actual projects, such as a POC, leads to a more successful set of standards than solely using a theoretical approach. So capturing things like naming conventions, color themes, best practices for data model design are all keys. And often these can be shared in like the template Power BI files or other presentation tools. Similar to best practices is defining development guidelines. So what's the correct way to implement Power BI and the fundamentals of design that need to be followed? Creating templates or frameworks for design and establishing review boards at various stages in delivery are good ways to ensure solutions adhere to organizational rules. Often key projects will serve as springboards for other initiatives or establish precedent, so planning to provide support during delivery of these solutions to ensure they are performant and follow guidelines will ultimately help cultivate support and confidence in Power BI and provide other groups with examples of how to deliver their own solutions. So here we really think about ways to govern the quality of Power BI content, which ultimately helps drive buy-in and user adoption to create more and more insight-driving solutions. So speaking of user buy-in, part of a Power BI vision is to promote end-user adoption and develop a confident and competent user base. So how can you do that? We've executed several user empowerment programs for various technologies and business functions, and the purpose is to cultivate a user base that is comfortable with this technology and knowledgeable on applying that technology to business concepts. So these programs include components such as training for varying degrees of experience levels from beginner to expert, establishing communities for collaboration, and creating opportunities for continued learning, such as periodic seminars. Creating an advocate network is helpful in driving business adoption because it provides resources to learn the technology and feel comfortable in using data for inquiries and analyses. So activities such as starting a user community, both in-person or electronic, facilitating attendance to public user groups, and creating a line of communication with Microsoft or partners gives users ample resources to elevate their abilities and confidence in the technology. Establishing local business support is impactful because it identifies power users and ambassadors in geographically convenient locations that can provide invaluable insight and also listen to user experiences and learn about their pain points, which can then be shared centrally and acted upon. And lastly, a principle of how Thorogood delivers solutions is to maintain a focus on business goals. And what is the objective of the report, and why is it important for the business to know this information? Often attaching descriptions or creating informational tabs within Power BI reports is a great way to share business value and help users to recognize other opportunities to elevate their analyses and find new insights. As we continue thinking about users and what they need to be confident in creating and consuming Power BI content, we consider some ways to implement support systems. So this is certainly a key in establishing self-service enablement and controlling the constant evolution of Power BI. Providing insight to data integration layers ensures Power BI solutions are transparent and able to grow as business needs grow. In the current age of digital transformation, business needs will continue evolving, and our solutions need to evolve with them. Having clear business logic and a view of end-to-end implementations can provide opportunity to iterate on solutions and more easily collaborate on content. Giving focus to key individuals identifies people who will become power users and ambassadors for the tool. This thinking establishes communities for early adopters and helps facilitate organic growth. As with any enterprise data set, having well-managed and insightful technical support is important in building credibility and trust in the product. Resources such as on-demand content and training material provide a method to raise issues for Microsoft, and having well-versed internal support complemented by those user communities provides various references for users to kind of go towards. Tracking usage monitoring is also helpful to analyze the use of Power BI and identify trends that may influence changes to strategy or reinforce strategic decisions that are working. So it's helpful to quantify what's happening and understand why it's happening. For support of Power BI to really be effective, there needs to be strong communication forums to share the information. So a key piece contributing to kind of all aspects of a strategy is a clear and consistent communication. So since Power BI is constantly evolving, organizations look to share new functionalities or improvements that can make formerly difficult analyses now possible. So distributing demos or new functionalities or having monthly presentations to explore the latest Power BI updates create forums to share and spread that information. As previously mentioned, internal and external user communities establish excellent arenas to collaborate on creation of content and to learn from Power BI ambassadors in the organization to really form that relationships that help grow confidence and use of the tool. Collecting feedback is incredibly valuable, whether it's from report creators providing input on development guidelines and best practices, or maybe users working directly with the developers to co-create and iterate on new content. Incorporating feedback into a Power BI strategy is necessary and enables organizations to be responsive to business needs. Another means of growing a user base and promoting adoption of the tool is sharing external opportunities such as dashboard of the day trainings, public user communities and briefings, and relevant conferences, which provides an avenue for users to expand their network and learn about how others are using Power BI. So using these communication channels, what's the message? A Power BI strategy is ultimately a vision for how an organization sees the tool fitting. So governing development standards promotes effective use of the tool. So by establishing checks and balances to make sure solutions are consistent in look and feel and that they leverage best practices for design ensures the solutions are going to be robust and reliable. Assessing the assignment of licensing and understanding how people are using the tool can aid in recognizing economic benefits and confirm really that the appropriate people have control of solutions. It also reduces inefficiencies and makes the best use of the allotment of resources. Comparing Power BI to other tools allows groups to identify where there's overlapping content or opportunities to make processes more efficient. There may be chances to use programming tools like R or Python to complement Power BI, or scenarios to replace old reports with Power BI reports that are more visualization driven. Security and data privacy must be significant elements of a Power BI strategy to ensure regulations are adhered to and data remains secure. This requires clear communication on how data should be analyzed with Power BI and shared in the online cloud service, and often requires collaboration with many business functions. So now we have Power BI in the center, surrounded by key aspects of a strategy that must be considered to provide value and really to get a strong return on investment in Power BI. So we've outlined some key concepts. So kind of where can we get started? What are some things to do to get going? Reviewing your current set of capabilities, both in technology and people, will help to identify gaps where you need more support and turning a vision for Power BI into a robust, guided analytic self-service platform. It's also prudent to think about what purpose you want Power BI to serve and where it fits in your current state and where it may fit in a future state. Establishing key relationship with Microsoft and partners to help in the journey allows you to draw on expertise when required and provide guidance when establishing new standards or ways of working. It's important to set up internal relationships as well with champions of the tool and start building that advocate network. Identifying early adopters that will become eventual power users and ambassadors for Power BI helps to establish a basis for user communities and empowerment programs, and it ultimately really identifies the individuals that are going to be able to execute on a Power BI vision. Defining the guidelines for delivery and best practices for Power BI is certainly a valuable exercise, and will teach users the correct way to use the tool. We often find it more impactful to create standards and best practices from actual projects and initiatives and iterate on them as new things are learned. And lastly here, establish a plan for training and user empowerment. What types of training sessions will be made available based on what the users need, where will on-demand content reside, and what resources will be in place to drive end-user adoption. So let's briefly wrap up here with a few thoughts on how we think BI&A strategies and how they may apply to delivering overall on Power BI visions. So when we think about implementation and user rollouts, we often think about the tools, the data, the people, and the process, and it kind of provides a holistic view of what's happening and what gaps may need to be addressed as part of a strategy. So the tools, will Power BI use to complement or replace existing reporting and analytic tools? How do you establish guidelines and best practices for using and rolling out solutions? The data, what types of data sources do users want to access, and what support is needed to connect to and productionize Power BI solutions, leveraging an organization's valuable data sources. The people, much of our discussion today was really about creating an environment which provides people the expertise and guidance to extract maximum value out of their data using Power BI. What types of continuous learning programs, user communities, and tool ambassadors are needed to make Power BI a successful investment? And the process, we often see implementation or rollout processes becoming over-engineered or cumbersome, which interferes with delivering on a vision. How can a Power BI strategy maintain a balance between governance and strong user adoption and kind of organic growth of the tool? When defining and then executing on a Power BI strategy, we look to include aspects from these four elements to ensure the strategy is robust and positioned to create value as the use of Power BI evolves. So I think we're about out of time here. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day.